Okay, here we go. It took a couple extra minutes to make sure that I had all the links and stuff. I had to play around with this. As Leslie was noticing yesterday, the demos messed everything up on the free version, folks, StreamYards. So we're gonna go with yellow. Yellow matches our cuffs. Why not? Welcome to my channel. My name is Margaret Pennard. I am a historical fiction and fantasy author. My latest book, conveniently displayed behind me, as Hank likes to say. And today we're doing 3 tags. There's no time limit. We're just going to take our time and have fun. We have several repeat books. I took a lot of time to think out the answers to these last night before I did my second word session, and my brain really was done. It was really wrung out yesterday. I spent a lot of time worrying about a long distance plumbing leak and trying to do better than I did last time. So we have 3 tags to do today, and if you looked at the thumbnail, you can see that they are and I'm going to go in reverse chronological, no, in chronological order, the ones that I haven't done yet. I'm skipping one. I have like 11, so I'm trying to fit 3 in today so I can catch up a little bit this month. I think I'll do another triple next Sunday. I'm going to do New Year, New Me, the book tag created by Kevin Toll Reads, and I was tagged by Gareth at Books, Songs, and Other Magic. I'm going to do the Bella Italia tag by Daniela and the Linguist's Library. Sorry, Uncommon Reader and the Linguist's Library. I'll give the channel names so people can find them. I think they're tagged in the description below, as well as all the prompts, because tag etiquette. I was tagged by Clarice Pessoa. Anyway, so we'll get to talk about not really Italy, but books that relate to Italy. And then the last one is the Honey Shelf, which was originally made by Essie at the novel Honey Shelf, and I was tagged by Read Becca. So in case you thought I would never get to these, I'm getting to them today. So hopefully the folks will feel like their investment was returned when they tagged me. I don't know if anyone feels like that ever. But New Year, New Me, since that is the oldest, we're going to start with that one. And just as a factual tidbit, if you didn't know, the Romans counted March as the first month of their new year. That's why they gave it the name March, for their war god, Mars. And, we just screwed around with things in the last 1,000 years, so it's different now. But I used to like to do a Roman holiday called Terminalia, and it was celebrating borders and neighbors and transitions. And so at the end of February, beginning of March was sort of the New Year celebration and neighbor celebration. And I talked a little bit about that in the last couple of videos, as we're now in March. So New Year, New Me as a Roman, which fits in with the Bella Italia tag. So there you go. Let's see. Hello, Ven. Happy Sunday. Oh, hello, Jocelyn. Good afternoon. It's still morning for me, but I appreciate everyone's in a different time zone. Ben says, I may have just finished Orla today, just in time for Thursday. Excellent. We're excited. Thursday, I will be on Ben's channel. It is 10 a.m. now, so this is when I will be on Ben's channel on Thursday. So hopefully that's 5 p.m. for him. And we have an Albert the Conjugator. Happy Sunday. Welcome, everybody. If you have questions as we go about different books, feel free to ask, or comments are welcome too, whether you agree or disagree with my bookish opinions. So New Year, New Me starts out with prompts that are related to sort of like goals. So let's see. The first one is fears. What is one book from your 2025 reading goals that scares you? And I thought this was funny because this presupposes a very specific list of 2025 reading goals, which is not the case for me. I do not make specific reading goals because I am a mood reader. I have way too many books, sorry, this side, to choose between. And so I have l'embarras du choix. I have an embarrassment of riches to choose from. So I couldn't possibly say, I'm going to read this book exactly at this time. But you know what does scare me is that the book that I have marked out to fulfill a certain prompt for Herkyed being HRCYED, the hardest reading challenge you'll ever do, started last July, ending this July, hosted by Stephanie at QWordy. The first prompt is a 500-page or more book read in 24 hours. And I've elected this one, which I'm expecting to be a very good read, but I'm just scared I'm not going to get through it in 24 hours, then I'm going to fail. So I have to get to this pretty soon. So if I fail, I can try again. It's The Last Thing You Surrender by Leonard Pitts Jr. And it's a book about World War II and the African-American experience. And it's going to be, highlighting the prejudice and probably injustices. And I've heard from multiple sources that it's really, really good. So it's just the matter of turning away from the rest of my life for a 24-hour period. It's like 501 pages, so it's perfect for the prompt, but I am a little scared. So that's my number one answer. Prompt number 2 is patience. What is the one book on your 2025 reading goals you want to start immediately? And okay, it's March. Again, it's the later New Year interpretation, but I'm going to interpret this as like what has recently popped up on your radar and bumped up your soon to read list. And I do have a really good one for this one, which is a book that I have been loaned by a friend, and I will tell you why it's bumped up the list. And there's another one that I'm planning. So let me talk about both of these and pop this link in the chat. So I went to a resilience dinner run by a friend named Leo, who some of you may know here, Leo Bancroft. And he loaned me this book, We Refuse, a forceful history of Black resistance by Kelly Carter Jackson. And then I came upon an interview with Dr. Jackson on one of the channels that I follow called Brown Girl Collective. And it was a great interview. She was raring to go with her answers. She was so excited. She had so many different parts of history to pull from for her examples. It was just riveting. So I'd really recommend, if you're interested and want to know more about Black resistance and a bit about history, especially in the US, Kelly Carter Jackson's interview with Marcy on Brown Girl Collective is here in the chat, and definitely watch it. And this may go up on your TBR as well. And I'm going to remind myself to talk about the Black Authortuber Readathon and the winter results and what I did this weekend, which was fun. Okay. So that's one, and that's in the chat. And then the other one is a library book that I've got, and it is called Sustaining Spirit. And I was excited to get this by Naomi Ortiz, Self-Care for Social Justice. So one of the things I'm doing this year is every month, at least one video on the truth and reconciliation idea. So the idea that climate grief is real, our planet is changing, we're destroying it, and we're unable to stop ourselves destroying it. And for some of us, this is really hard to live with. And so we're telling our truths, we're, getting our stories out there, and, just talking to other people about how they're coping with it. So this is really getting at that. And I'm going to have Victoria from Victoria Talks Writing, I think. I can't remember if it talks books or talks writing, but Victoria Stevens in May for the TRC topic. So very excited. And that has moved up the TBR. So excited and impatient. Here we go. There's just stuff everywhere. That's just how I live. Oh, perfect. Okay, it is indeed 5 PM for me now, tea time. Perfect. We had an Emma come in. Hiya. Added to your tag video list. No, it's good. It's good. I'm very happy to have more tags. Um, yeah, it was fun. It was fun to find answers for these. I was doing a lot of scrolling. And if you're on Storygraph, you know the pain of scrolling because for whatever reason, their server space has trouble with an endless scroll. And when you have a couple hundred books in a certain category, scrolling just like pauses and takes like 20 seconds to load. And you're like, really? Really? So like every search is a little excruciating. It's fine. It's fine. Prompt number 3 is growth. What book last year pushed you to reflect and or grow as a reader? And of course, I have multiple books for this prompt. Kevin, we've got, and here I'm going to share. Do I dare share? See, here we go. This is the problem. We're going to try to go to stats and reading wrap up so that I could just scroll through all the books from last year so you could see the covers. Great nonfiction year last year. So I'll just skip forward to one of the first books that I read was Self-Portrait in Black and White by Thomas Chatterton Williams. And he is a mixed race Black man in a mixed race marriage and sort of reflecting on his kids, his parents, his community, living in an international environment, different countries having different attitudes towards race. And that's why it's titled like Unlearning Race. So I had not heard a lot of this angle before, and I found it really interesting. So there's that. And I took the trouble to go through and find the wrap-ups in which I talk about all these books. So I'm going to share them with you. That's what made me a couple minutes late. So I'm going to post those. The next one I was really excited about, I listened to as an audiobook, Nowhere Exactly by M.G. Vasanji. Let's see if I could scroll down and show that cover. Let's see if I recognize it quickly. I don't know if I will. There we go. So it's a square. It's an audiobook on identity and belonging. And this one was like a whole world history course through one artist's questioning of his situation in the artist community in Canada. So Canadian literature, if anyone's looking for that. And because of his family background, which started in Northwest India and then went to Kenya and East Africa and then went to Canada, he's got different pieces to play with. And so you get a different view of how people view his race or his roots against a backdrop of different contexts, which is fascinating. So he goes over, hundreds of years. He goes over religion. He goes over politics. He goes over arts grants. He goes over other artists in similar situations. I just found it so fascinating and just eye-opening. So definitely recommend that to people. Another one that made me grow and reflect would have to be one that I did a buddy read with my friend Christy, and that is The Coffin Path. Let's see. It's there. Yeah, scary horror book. So I can count on one hand horror books a year, right? And so it has to be pretty exceptional. But this one I thought, okay, it's Victorian. No, it's earlier than Victorian, I think. It's set in Yorkshire area. It's gothic-y, and there's like gory mayhem happening and maybe a ghost. And like, I like the idea of coffin paths, that sort of idea of the landscape and humanity having effects on each other. So if you don't know, a coffin path is the path through the hills that doesn't necessarily go on a main road, but it's the most direct route from a remote settlement to a church where someone was buried, and so they called it like the coffin path. I believe that's right. So yeah, yeah, a little gorier than I would have imagined. So it tested my limits, but Christine and I had a really good time talking about the writing of it and like the pacing and the atmosphere. So we both really, I don't know if I'd say enjoyed, but definitely appreciated the craft of the writer. And then the final book that would like stretched my brain, I'm going to say, is a happenstance pickup of a book in my stationery shop called Shopkeeping. And there it is. It's this white book, easy to pick out, by Peter Miller, who is a bookstore owner up in Seattle. And this is sort of a memoir about his tips from being a vendor, from being a shopkeeper, from being a part of his community, from trying to champion his values in that way. And I just found it really interesting to situate a values conversation in terms of a small business owner and how the town changes around you, but what is your role in the community through that? And it was very hopeful and very hope giving. So definitely highly recommend. Okay, so I think I just put all the wrap ups in the chat in case people want to look up my actual reviews of the books. Hi, Eva. Welcome. We're still on tag 1 and we're on prompt 4, which is new paths. What is one author you plan to try for the first time in 2025? Okay, and for context, my 2024 reads, when I look at that wrap up, when I was doing all that scrolling, I had 151 reads and 122 of those were new to me authors. So that's a pretty high proportion. I am not a person who reads one author over and over and over. I really go, oh, that was good, and then I want something different. I think it's like this innate fairness doctrine that like, oh, well, I gave them time in my head, and now I need to give someone else a chance. I don't know. It's it's like how I put on socks first, left and then right, and then right and then left. I don't know. It's my brain. So here's the thing. I looked up all of my I recently redid Storygraph. I took off all the to read books because they were incorrectly imported from Goodreads 3 years ago, and I've been trying to take them off. Finally, I just asked the developer, can you just untag all these as to read, because I didn't do that and like it's messing with my sorting. So they're able to do that, which is great. Love Storygraph, Black woman owned business. And so now I'm actually using it as it's meant to be used. So I've got a to read pile, which is like the up next, and you're allowed 5 only, which is kind of crazy, but here we are. We're going to share this tab instead and pop it up to the screen. Your browser has lost connection to your screen share audio. Try sharing your screen again. Can you guys still hear me? Restart your browser if this continues to be a problem. Let me know if you can still hear me or not. StreamYard just gave me an alert. Even does that like your brain? Fairness doctrine, right? Okay, you can still hear me. All right, StreamYard doesn't know what it's talking about, as usual. Ever since private equity firms took it over, there's no accounting for it. All right, so the 5 up next are new to me authors. So on the subject of the prompt, Dreaming the Eagle, Manda Scott. I've wanted to read her for a long time, and Cat Paw was like, elbowing me to try this series, and I'm finally going to be starting it. I started it a couple days ago, actually, so it's actually on my current reading, so I should just change that. There we go. It's not changing. Oh, there we go. Oh, dear. It's just taking a long time. That's fine. Also on my up next list, Maiden of Artemis, and this is going to be my first read of Eloise Barr's books because it's her only book so far. But I think she's hard at work on the second book, which is excellent. This is mythologies, you could probably tell, like Greek myth, and woman-centered. Very excited for that. We've got Maggot, poems by Paul Muldoon, which I have not read. This was recommended to me by one of the co-hosts from the Celtophile Readathon. The channel is called A Poet Who Writes? A Poet, I can't remember the name of it, but his name's Philip, and he's a poet. So he recommended this and quoted one of the poems, and it sounded really good. So that's the one that I picked up from the library. And finally, nope, Work in Progress by Kat McKenzie. Haven't read Kat McKenzie before, but this came up on new releases in my other line of work, and I thought, ooh, Scotland, romance, like contemporary humor. This sounds up my alley. And then I just popped We Refuse on here because it's moved up my TBR. So there we go. So yeah, lots of new to me authors. 122 out of 151. Anyone can beat that statistic. Let me hear it. New paths. So prompt number 5 is self-care. What is one book and or series you revisit for comfort? Comfort. Oh, and the context for this. Okay. How many of my books from last year were part of a series? 52 out of 151. So about a third. And I would say I would definitely go back to romance and mystery as genres, and they definitely tend to be in series. So the Lane Winslow mysteries set in British Columbia, the Maisie Dobbs mysteries set mainly in London, but sort of traveling all over as you get later in the series. The Grace Burrows oeuvre, she's got dozens of books, and they're mostly set in the UK. And Mimi Matthews, any of her romance series, mostly set in London or around the UK. So those are 2 mysteries and 2 romance in case anyone needs a dab or dash of either one, which I really highly recommend. Okay. I don't know what they were saying then. So yeah, everyone can hear me. What? Maybe it has something to do with the fact that every time I go onto a streaming thing, Google says, "Do you want to add reactions?" and tries to like horn in on the camera. And I'm like, no, just go away, Google. Shut up, you're drunk. That's what I want to say to Google. Gareth, I can see him right at the end of, oh no, you're at the end of the first prompt. I'm going, sorry, first tag. We're going through 3. So feel free to get a drink and pull up a chair. Forging ahead. What is your favorite debut or first book in a series you read last year? Okay, so I have a great answer for this one. I thought of it right away because I don't know many debut. I don't really think of a book in terms of debuts, and I don't think I read too many actually. So The Truth According to Ember by Danica Nava was a debut in 2024 that I read in 2024. How awesome is that? So Her Kid did help me because we're reading at least one new release in the month that is released or 30 days following. And so I think this qualified for one of my months, and it was delightful. And Leslie talked about it in one of her recent videos, Leslie at Books, Gurs, and Purrs. So I think we're on the same page. This is delightful. Ember is a young adult who is trying to save money to go to college, and she can't find a job. So she lies on an application and says she's white instead of native. And wouldn't you know, she's accepted into an interview and gets the job right away. So then she's living this lie and then has to keep hiding parts of herself until there's like a connection there that's like real genuine. And she goes, oh shit, how do I marry these different parts of my life now that I've started on a lie? So it's young adult, coming of age, values driven. Love it. So let's see. Prompt number 7, goals. Do you have a specific reading goal or challenge for the year ahead? I read 151 books last year. I was really excited to hit the gross, the 12 by 12, 144 number. That would be cool if I hit that again, but this is not something that I aim for or care too much about. I would be surprised if I didn't top 100. That's usually like the Goodreads goal that I had, but it's normalized now, so I'm not striving for anything. The striving for is completing Her Kid. And again, it's not going to be depressing if I don't finish all the prompts. I'm giving it the good college try, as they say. But I think I'm, like, within shouting distance, so it's very exciting to see the prompts tick down, as, like, elimination rounds. So, specific reading goal, I guess that would be it. Prompt 8, breaking walls is a bonus prompt. Do you have a non-book related goal for 2025 you wish to share? And, I mean, some that people won't be interested in, but behind me, you might be able to see is a wall and a corner. You can sort of see the shading here. There's a heating vent at the bottom of this, so I can't put shelves there. But what I want to do, and this is my desk where I'm sitting at here, what I want to do, and I've wanted to do for like 5 years, but it's daunting, is like this whole wall with like all the shelves of different sizes and makes and quality levels. It's quite a big wall, and it could stand some built-in bookshelves. So there we go. I'm hoping that I can take the carpet out, which is probably helping make me sick, put hardwood floors in, and at the same time that I'm uprooting everything and need to move all my furniture, put some built-in bookshelves in. That would be amazing, and I want them to look like they belong in Rivendell. So how hard is that going to be in the year of our Lord 2025? Who knows? Who knows? But that's my non-book related goal. We're going to try to make it happen this year. Garrett's with me still. Okay. And then for this tag, new year, new me, don't be afraid that it's not January anymore. March is a new year, and I'm sure you can find the equinox is coming up. Make that your new year. Don't be afraid. For this tag, we want to see friends, Marian at Writer in Rwanda, Mr. Sosotris, who's a newer subscriber friend, and Shilanda at Library Without Borders, who's a fabulous Congolese booktuber. I'd love to see your answers to this one, to see what your goals and other experiences from last year are. I thought this was a fun tag from Kevin. So there we go. One down. I love this for you and for me. Are you talking about the bookshelves? Log all the steps. Yeah. Oh, gosh. See, yeah, it just doesn't come naturally to me, Eva. It'd be really awkward. I can try photos. Yeah, spring is my new year for sure. Yes. Yes. Yeah. I feel like if we had a ship next to us, we could break a big champagne bottle on it and say, yeah, start over. New year. Exactly. And of course, if you want to do New Year, New Me and you haven't been tagged yet, feel free to pick it up and run with it. Next tag. Oh, before the next tag. See, it's a good thing I reminded myself. I just wanted to share that this weekend, Friday, during my productivity stream, I picked the winners and the formats and all the things. So I currently have 2 books going out to Beth Ann Veroniga Sokolar and Rachel at RK Stumbling Bear, the 2 booktubers who participated and won the contest. I just split the winnings and they were okay with that. And I actually did a bonus thing, which is requested. Did I request it? Yes, I requested The Secrets of Cat Spreadle Village, which was one of the featured authors' books for my local library, because I think that's more than buying it. I think it'll be available to more people and therefore increase access. And what I was planning on doing was using my credit at the used bookstore to order all these books and send them to our friends across the US. But then when I came down to it, I thought, oh, well, I could do that, or I could go through a Black bookstore in Portland through Bookshop and send it that way. So that's what I did. I supported Third Eye Books and Gifts, which is the Black-owned bookstore flagship here in Portland. So I was like, oh, what should I do? Oh, this is an easy decision. So I'll save my credit at the used bookstore for another event where I'm going to give away prizes and give away some gift certificates. So that should be fun. Okay, so that's done. Let's see. Other reminders. I do still have a Patreon. If you're interested in getting bookish mail, this is an international affair. I send international postcards as well as domestic. So you can support the channel on Patreon at that address below, where I also blog and do photos and fun writing journey things every once in a while. So just so you know what you're getting into. And yeah, if you have any questions, I'll leave that up for a second to encourage people. Second tag, here we go. Second tag is going to be La Bella Italia. This is from Daniela and Emily Clarice, and I was unsure going through several different people's versions whether you were supposed to include only read books for this, because the prompts don't say a book that has this effect on you like the last prompt. It's very hands off. It's very vibes, right? So some of these are going to be books that I am currently reading or intend to read this month or as part of my challenges, my readathons. So we're mixing it up with this one. And prompt number 1, all roads lead to Rome. Now, I've been to Rome a couple times. I went with my mother and sister after a terrible 2004 election results that had us all depressed. And then I went through Rome when I was visiting Italy and staying with a friend who was living there. So that was an opportunity I couldn't pass up. And so I got to go through Rome again, and it's amazing. It's an amazing city. The prompt is history, historical novels, which is 2 huge genres. So I had a really hard time picking books for this. So history, I narrowed it down for the Irish and Celtophile readathons this month. So I'm going to show you. Whoa. Oh, I just shifted the whole thing. Some books that I've got in my up to read next, like want to read soon, as well as some that I specifically intend to read for March. And this is the first one that came to mind. It's called Insurrection, Scotland's Famine Winter by James Hunter. I got this at Scoob Books in London when I was there last. I was amazed. I loved this find in a used bookstore. So we know about the Irish potato famine, but this is Scotland's version. When Scotland's 1846 potato crop was wiped out by blight, the country was plunged into crisis. The huge relief effort came too late to prevent starvation and death. Towns and villages from Aberdeen to Wick rose up in protest at the cost of the oatmeal that replaced potatoes as people's basic foodstuff. The repeat of the famine then ravaging Ireland. Grain carts were seized, ships boarded, harbors blockaded, a jail forced open. So there's lots of like protest, and that sounds mighty timely. Like I like the sound of that. And remember the author name, James Hunter, because that will come up later. And I'm gonna get rid of this patch of sunlight. Hold on. No sun. What is the sun doing? This is Portland. You think it belongs here? It does not. Okay, now it won't go over and blind me. Okay, so James Hunter, remember that one. What else have we got for Irish and Celtophile? We've got this little sucker, which I've had for a long time. It's fiction, even though it's called Testimony. Testimony of an Irish Slave Girl from Kate McCafferty. This is a bit older of a book, definitely backlist, but it tells a history of indentured servants, is what white slaves were basically called in that era. And so you have impoverished, starving folks in Scotland and Ireland. And oh, look, we need a workforce, and we don't care if they die in the heat and humidity of the tropics working on sugar plantations. So this is getting into a very interesting sort of what happens when impoverished white folks and in bondage black folks are both taken from their homelands, made to work for other people's profit, and do they form bonds and revolt? Like, this is what I'm hoping happens. We'll see. I haven't read it yet, and it's been a long time. It's one of those like TBR veterans. So we'll see. What else? We've got Daniel O'Connell, a biography. I don't read many biographies, but this was too on the nose for me to pass up when I came across it. Nationalism Without Violence by Raymond Moley. And Daniel O'Connell is one of like the towering names of politicians in the 19th century into the 20th a little bit. I think I sort of mix up him and Parnell, which is part of why I wanted to read a biography, because I've studied some of the politics, and it's like there's forces that I can't see that are invisible moving people around, and there's so many cross-cutting cleavages, as the political scientists say, that it's hard to keep it all in my head at once. So I'm hoping another biography would help. What did Gladstone. I read one of Gladstone, who's a few decades later, but and yeah, there's just a lot going on in Britain in the 19th century. So trying to get another viewpoint on that. What else? For the People's Cause by James Hunter. So we got an Irish politician, and then we've got a Scottish rabble-rouser who's actually sort of from Ireland. So let's see. John Murdoch was the catalyst to introduce the philosophy of the Irish Land League to Inverness and helped initiate a protest movement, you see a theme here, leading to the passing of the Crofters Act of 1886 and the establishment of the Crofters Commission to safeguard their rights. So in case you need a little primer on this, it's For the People's Cause by, oh wait, James Hunter. Is that the same James Hunter? Yes, it is. So I had to look it up because it's a pretty common name. And I'm pretty sure it's the same guy. He's an emeritus professor of Highlands and Islands University, but writes all this stuff about Highlands and Islands history, right? And right up my alley. So obviously I've got 2 books by him that I didn't even know. So for the context, however, the Crofters Commission, if you read the Keening, you know that a croft is a small subsistence farm that is usually in the Highlands and Islands of Scotland. And there was a movement called the clearances where a lot of people were moved off their land so that landowners could put sheep on the land and get rich through making more profit, because all these subsistence farmers were not yielding cash rent. So that was a big culture changer. And in the 1880s, after most of that had already happened, but there were still trickling migrations going on. I don't know, something just moved and it freaked me out. They finally adopted some political tactics that enabled them to stand up and get some reforms, which is the commission and safeguarding their rights. So happy change. And I started this one as well, and it's interesting. James Hunter was working. What is he working for? He was working for something crafting commission, and learned about John Murdoch, Highland and Irish land reformer. And this was published in 1986 for the commemoration of 100 years of the Crofters Act. So that's the connection. And it was published by Her Majesty's Stationery Office. So we've got a Irish and Scottish rabble-rouser and political activist published by Her Majesty's Stationery Office, which I think is just pitch perfect. So very, very excited to read that, and very tickled. I also had a James Hunter that was a much newer purchase. So rock on, keep writing, James Hunter. So yeah, that was all for Rome. Sorry, that took a while. I have one more really long prompt for this, but the other ones should go faster. Let me put that down. Envy at International. Yeah. I've been really lucky to do lots of travel, and I don't do it too much anymore. Like every other year, I try to do a research trip. But yeah, I definitely took it for granted 10, 15 years ago. Jocelyn's got to step away. All right. Hope you're okay. Hope it's for a treat or a snack. We're going to move on to prompt number 2, which is Wherefore Art Thou, Verona? And I have not been to Verona, but I know that it's featured in Two Gentlemen of Verona. This is romance books, literary fiction, ill-fated lovers. Again, sort of vibes thrown at you, which I wasn't sure how to interpret. I originally went with Ill-Fated Lovers, but then there's a prompt later on that talks about forbidden love affair books. So I was like, wait, okay, more than one love affair. It's Italy. No surprise. So then I veered left and I thought, okay, romance, literary. I'm going to throw a fantasy romance in there that I just read and loved, which is Wooing the Witch Queen by Stephanie Burgess. This is my first Stephanie Burgess. It is the first of a new series by her called Queens of Villainy, which is marvelous. And the two characters are thrown into proximity by a mistaken case of identity. One thinks she's interviewing a wizard for a job, and one goes, oh, instead of pleading my case for sanctuary, maybe I'll just pretend to be this wizard interviewing for the job. And then they get into all kinds of things, and they're both lovely. So I loved that romance and would definitely recommend Queens of Villainy as a series to pursue. Prompt number 3, Florence. So I went to Florence on the same trip as Rome. It was a little package deal that we had with the train and the hotels. And it's called Brushstrokes and Botticelli. Florence, I think, is known for being like an art capital. It's got the Uffizi Gallery. It's got all these works of art and also like crafts, artisans and everything. Not that we could afford any of that. I came home with a really cool scarf, which I still have, even though it's a bit tatty now, and lots of postcards. Books about art and music or artists. Ooh, so I have a good one for this, which, surprise, is also related to political activism. William Morris, and I bet Gareth would appreciate this. Decor and Design. This is a book by Elizabeth Wilhide, and I got this on a trip down to Sacramento recently, and there's lots of pictures. I have only read the part so far about his life and how he started out pretty privileged and went to school, thought he would do religion, then went into art and got together with a bunch of his friends in the mid to late 19th century and put together a studio for architecture and design. They did furniture, they did wallpapers. He's got some great specialties. And this is like the arts and crafts movement at its birth. This is like the man of the movement. So there's lots of things to love about this. I haven't explored the novel that he wrote called News from Nowhere. I'm afraid it's going to be a bit like Edward Bellamy's Looking Backward, which is like, I'm really clever, I'm predicting the future, or, you know, like inventing another world, and we're all going to look at it from our sophisticated science fiction fantasy viewpoint and go, this is so lame. So I haven't read it yet. I'm a little afraid it'll be pretty lame, but his designs are amazing and masterful, and I would love to have stationery with these. But let's see if I can open up to oh, there we go. So it's like the appendices, a glossary of patterns. Like, imagine, you probably can't hear me as well behind the book, but like designing these and coloring and dyeing and then like carving out stamps to be able to make the wallpaper, like really, really pretty. So art, not so much music, but artists for sure. And again, I'm not very far through it, so just went through his life. Someone reviewed the book as like how to make your life arts and craftsy. So maybe I'll get some design and decor tips towards the end. But yeah, I came across a really cool wallpaper design firm next to the bagel shop in North Portland, and she made beautiful things with original designs inspired by nature. And she used to have a tattoo shop in the same neighborhood. So she's the artist in the tattoo shop, and she's sort of moved sideways to wallpaper design, and it's really incredible. So yeah, that's the kind of art that I am appreciating at the moment. Prompt number 4 is Sicily. And I've been to Sicily. That was on that second trip that I was talking about. When I went to, starts with a P, not Posole, that's a soup. I can't remember now. It's known for pizza. It's known for the volcano, but it's on the mainland. Anyway, I try to remember where Jill and Brian lived. Pozzuole? Maybe someone can help me From La Bella Italia, either of the tag originators. Sicily, Myths of Mount Etna, mythology, fantasy, and sci-fi books. Okay, so again, I'm going to do one that I have not read yet, but that I intend to read, and that'll be this one. You will recognize from the last tag, Maiden of Artemis, Legend of the Amazons, Book 1, by our Authortuber friend, Eloise Barr. So she has these beautiful covers, she has beautiful character art, and we're going to be reading this super soon, and enjoying it. I don't read too many mythology-based books, but you know what else is going to be mythology-based is this other one that I started for Celtophile and Readathon, Dreaming the Eagle by Amanda Scott. This is a legend of Boudica, who is one of the rebels, see the theme there, of early Roman Britain. So one of the Celtic tribes that were in, I think, upper Midlands, I'm not sure exactly, and rebelled against the invasion. And I think right now we're just talking about intertribal warfare, but I'm very close to the beginning. So very interesting start. And myth legend-esque. So it's shaping up well. And I need to read this one because it's the first in a series of 4, which is another Herkiad prompt. So anyway, if you're curious about how I do readathons, last Sunday I did a lengthy live stream talking about readathon strategy because I have Climathon and I have Herkiad and I have various monthly readathons along with mood reading. So if you're curious how I fit all those things and like double dip and whatever, then check out Sunday's live stream. It was pretty fun. Pompeii? Yeah, that's a good guess. I'm just going to look it up. Let's see. Maps. Maps. We love maps. Sicily. Okay, Palermo. Nope. Naples. Well, I was trying to think of Napoli. That's what I was trying to think of, which is not helpful to say P because it's in the middle of the word. Sorry. Sorry, everybody. But they lived in, I think Pozzuoli is a suburb. Yeah, Pozzuoli is near Naples. So yeah, that's the P that I was thinking of. I did get it. Okay. Go me. So that's for Sicily, those 2, and myths. Then we have prompt 5, the Bolognese Chronicles, food-themed books. So I think for France, the gastronomic capital is Lyon, which I've never been to, but the gastronomic capital of Italy is definitely declared to be Bologna. And I went to grad school in Washington, D.C., and there was an opportunity to do half of the program in Bologna. And minority of folks in the program did that year there, but they were very tight. So, yeah, I did not get to experience the gastronomic capital of Italy, and maybe someday. It sounds really cool. But this is one I've been working through for a long time. I'm 70 pages, 50 pages from the end. It's not really my speed. I will definitely sell it back, but there's like 3 things that I might actually try to make. It's called Food Artisans of Japan, and I was inspired to read it because it just looked so pretty when I was watching other people's videos. And I do like artisan stuff. So I do appreciate other people honing their craft because I can never go that deep, right? Like I research history, but I'm not trained to be a historian. I just really like digging around and finding people's stories, whereas these people are ones who have trained for years and like done some task 63 different ways to try to find the best way, and I definitely could not do that. So Nancy Singleton Hachisu is an American married to a Japanese person and has been writing Japanese cookbooks and culture kind of food books for 20 years. And so she has this beautiful, photo-rich book that vacillates between talking about the artisans and the things they create in the different regions of Japan and how they learned and like delightful little visits with them and recipes that are very highfalutin that I could never touch, right? So there's maybe 2 that I flagged. So like I said, I'll take pictures of those 2 and then sell it back to Powell's or whoever. But beautiful and definitely food themed, and definitely a slow read that I'm working on. So that's good. Prompt number 6, from Sardinia with love. And for those of you who don't know, I've mentioned this a few times lately, different streams. When I did the DNA test, I actually came up with, I don't know, 7% something from Sardinia. So that's on my bucket list to go visit at some point because I want to see what it's like. I have no idea. I was close with Sicily, but it's a whole nother island. So Sardinia's prompts are thriller, adventure, spy, heist. Sort of like adjacent. Like I can understand placing these together, even though I don't know why Sardinia would have those related, but I could go back to their videos to check that. But I have the perfect book for this, which is this one. Thriller, check. Adventure, check. Spy, check. Heist, check. So let me get the link here. I put it at the top of the notepads and I have to scroll past everything. I'm talking about The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. That's the series name, and that's the first book in the series. I read The Dark Mirror, and I will be interviewing Samantha Shannon on this channel on Sunday, March 30th. So that will be one of my Authortube themed streams for the month. And I will be doing this through A Mighty Blaze and interviewing Samantha Shannon about probably the series and Priory of the Orange Tree. She just came out with, did she cover reveal or did she release? I think she released a prequel to Priory. So she's doing multiple series worlds at the same time, which is very impressive. And she's a British writer who has done a marvelous job of a very tight, thrillery, actiony, pacey, however you want to call it, spy world. So it's urban fantasy because it is in our world, and we definitely go through places that we would recognize, but they're transformed by the magic system that she's overlaid. And I love it. And I love the beautiful covers. So that is for you to look forward to a few Sundays from now. But yeah, that's definitely my Sardinia choice for spy thrillers, putting the fantasy in there. Why not? Prompt number 7 is Venice. I've also never been to Venice, but want to go. In a Gondola with Casanova. So here's the other prompt that had to do with like a love affair. Prompt is forbidden love affair books. And for this one, I'm going to go back to, here it is. My up next books. So here is the last one on my up next, which I think I forgot to mention before, which is fine, which is perfect because now I can introduce you to A Cruel Thirst by Angela Montoya. So Angela Montoya had another book that was on my wish list and then came out with this one recently. It was recommended to me by Natalia Hernandez. So this is a Latinx book and it's got some very cool fantasy vibes. So let me just click on it and wait and wait. There we go. A fledgling vampire and a headstrong vampire huntress must work together against their better judgment to rid the world of monsters in this irresistible young adult romantasy. So that just sounded pretty cool. And my library, and the covers are really cool. The library had all 3 formats, but I waited until I had the book. It took like 2 months. So actually, I don't need to show this. Hide. Yeah, I have the hardback. So in the comfort book prompt from the last tag, it was romance or mystery. And this seems to satisfy both. So do not be surprised if I take a break from William Morris and biography of a 19th century politician in Ireland and need some romantasy vampires. We all We all need balance. It's all about balance. Yeah, ill-fated lovers. Vampire huntress. Seems pretty ill-fated. But we'll see. It's pretty forbidden. Prompt number 8. Naples never sleeps. So Napoli. I like Napoli better than Naples, which sounds like both napkin and tablecloth and something else. So the prompt for this is mystery, horror, gothic. So I was like, I don't know what to do for this one because I'm not a big horror or gothic reader. But if you want to talk about heightened tension and a little bit of horror, I would recommend All the Water in the World by Erin Kafal. So this is a new release from 2 months ago, I think. I listened to the audiobook through Libro.fm, and it was narrated by Eunice Wong, and she did a fantastic job. All the Water in the World is dystopian. It's a cli-fi thriller in which a family unit is trying to survive on top of the Museum of Natural History when New York City has been taken out, basically, from water and superstorms. And our main character, our narrator, Noni, has sort of a sixth sense about water, like when it's coming, when the pressure changes, what storms are going to have what qualities. So she's pretty much painted as like on the spectrum, but also having this sort of natural intuition. And I love that. It was very enlightening. So we get to see the world through her memories interspersed with present day emergencies. And they undertake this journey to try to find a safe place. And you learn about what's happened as well as like what's gone down. And it's pretty horrific. You see like the threads of trust that are really frayed and the people who stick together and like what distinguishes the groups that are tied together with fear and tied together with cooperation. So I really loved it. It's not what is Anita always calling the sun hope, not hope core, the sunlight what's it called? Steampunk. Solar punk. There we go. I had it in there. It's not solar punk. It's not like hopeful, but like it has a really earned ending. I really, really loved it. So All the Water in the World by Erin Kafal, and you could find it on my channel. Prompt number 9, Tales of Torino la Magica? Magica? I don't know. I think that might be Emily's Portuguese rather than Italian because I don't know how to say a G-I. Magica. Anyway, I'm not an Italian speaker. I'm a French speaker, so don't ask. This prompt is ghosts and legend stories. So we already did myths and legends, but this is ghosts and legends, novellas, short stories, plays, and folklore. So again, that's a lot of different things. So I'm a little confused. This is why this has several answers. So, I had to do a lot of different searching in this one. So, please have patience with me while I skip around and just search out the titles of the books and then have to wait for them to pop up. We've got several folklore associated ones, which is kind of where I coincide with this prompt. The first one is good for Irish Readathon. I read it last year for the Readathon. It's called Tree Dogs, Banshee Fingers, and Other Irish Words for Nature. And this is by Madacan McGann. And the illustrator is Steve Dugan. So this is a big format, sort of children's book style. And it's giving words in Irish for things in nature that have a particular cultural context and explaining it a little bit, but in a very accessible way for kids. So I liked it. You can see I have my tags up there: Climathon, library, Irish Readathon. That's how I do. That's how I do. The next folklore one that I thought was good to recommend, I read for the Irish Readathon the year before, and that would be a classic called Crock of Gold by James Stephens. I listened to this as a Libro.fm audiobook because it was a new recording. James Stephens is the author, and it was read by Jerry O'Brien, who was the first time I'd listened to him. And other folks have been frustrated with how slow and meandering it was, but I think that's kind of the point. I'm reading A Book of Migrations. I'm rereading from Rebecca Solnit for Irish Readathon, and she's just talked about in the latest chapter how the conversational budget or exchange is different in Ireland, and how conversation and storytelling is a skill there, and you layer on one after another, and that's sort of like contributions, whereas in Western conversation it's smaller snippets traded back and forth, more like a ping pong match or a tennis tournament, and it's too abrupt for an Irish person. It would be considered pretty rude. And I thought, interesting. So this is a great example of they just got to let loose with their inventiveness and, going into mythology and, the little people and their unique cultural context. I enjoyed it. There were parts where I was like, where are we going? But I was ultimately entertained and would recommend it. What else have I got? Okay, so leaning away from the Celtic, we've got an Alaskan legend from a First Nations, and that would be, let me look it up. Nope, wrong tab. Too many tabs. One of the first books that I read for Indigathon several years ago was Two Old Women, an Alaskan legend of betrayal, courage, and survival by Velma Wallace and apparently James Grant. I think he probably did an introduction. It's an older book. This is a newer reprint. And it's someone who is thrown out of their community and meeting up with someone else and working through it. So we got to see a lot of like customs and processing and like a different approach to mental health. I think that's sort of the point. And yeah, it was very valuable, and different approach is kind of what I would emphasize. I'd never come across anything like this before, and it was interesting to witness it. All right, veering away from Alaska and First Nations, we've got another set of short stories, probably my favorite set of short stories that I've read for Booktube. And it's a newer release that I listened to as an audiobook through, you guessed it, Libro.fm. It's called Jollof Rice and Other Revolutions, and it's a novel in interlocking stories. So we get a few different narrators and timelines. We sort of pin back and forth, and going back to a boarding school experience in Nigeria. Wait, is it Nigeria? Yes. Okay. Nigerian author Omolola Ijeoma Ogunyemi makes her American debut with this dazzling novel, which explores her homeland's past, present, and possible future through the interconnected stories of four fearless globetrotting women. So, yeah, we have this episode where they were all in school together and something happened, and then how they branched out from there and pursued different careers, fates, love, adventures, and how it relates back. I liked it. I liked it a lot. And I don't see people talk about it, so I wanted to highlight that again. And then, there's this other collection of short stories that I wanted to recommend to folks, which you might recognize from this channel, Fabled Passages. So fable is in the title. It's a little bit magical realism. It's a little bit fantastical, but there's also like a lot of history research woven in. So these are my stories from long ago that I had little pieces of, up to the present when I thought, I'm going to do a short story collection. How can I round this out and complement the stories that I have? So many years worth of short stories collected and sort of filed in, I think there's 8, to a short story collection. So if you didn't know, I have speculative fiction and a short story collection if you wanted to go into the backlist. So that's all my folklore picks for prompt number 9. Ta-da! Little plug. Yeah, so Rachel says, Solar Punk, thank you. I got it after a while. Catching the end. I still have one more whole tag to do, so we are 2/3 of the way through. It's a triple tag. Yeah, everyone's worried, and I'm just gonna keep on trucking. Ben said, food time, gonna wander off. All right, be good. All right. Prompt number 10, musing in Milan. I have not been to Milan. And the prompt is any genre. So I'm just going to say what I'm reading now for Irish Readathon / just new release for her kid. That is Sirens by Amelia Hart. So Amelia Hart is an Australian born but living in Britain. So they call her a British Australian writer in the websites. And this is a audiobook narrated by Barry Krynick, and she's doing a great job because she's switching between a present-day timeline, or 2019, in an Australian accent, and an 1800 past timeline in an Irish accent. And we're getting glimpses of how they relate to each other, and it's very Susanna Kearsley-esque, and I'm enjoying it a lot. So Irish, Australian, dual timeline, psychic connections. It's like, it's hitting the sweet spot. So Sirens, I'll let you know when I finish in a wrap up about what I thought. Then finally, bonus postcards from Italy. The prompt is a book set in Italy. And you know what? This book is mostly set in Italy. So we start out, I think, in like Poland, and then we go to Budapest, and then we end up in Italy. And I won't tell you the city because it's a bit of a spoiler. But it's gorgeous, and we want to protect Italy at all costs. So it really felt a little bit like an excuse to go visit all these cities and ooh and ah over the architecture and the beautiful landscapes. And I don't blame Samantha Shannon. I would do the same. So loved the treat of touring parts of Italy. Even if they do fictionally get blown up in some iterations, let's say. Okay, and then we're going to tag people to finish up this second tag. So I'm going to tag folks who I know live in international places, meaning not the US. So Aditi at Brown Gold Reading lives in France. Camilla at Hasty Books lives in Stirling in Scotland. Sterling, I think. And Hannah at Savage Reads lives in Spain. So y'all are, sort of near each other, and curious to see if you've been to any of these Italy places and have good recommendations. So there we go. 2/3 down. Any events, any other things people want me to remember to remind you about? We're coming up on the third tag. Last and third tag is The Honey Shelf. This is originally by Essie at the novel Honey Shelf, and I was tagged by Reed Becca. So we're just going to jump in because we're already past. I've had fun with these. The first prompt is Brood, your favorite child or children in literature. This was an easy one. I don't know if anyone can guess. I wore glasses today just for this. I'm going to give you 3 seconds. See if anyone comes up with it. Favorite child. The prompts are in the description box. So if you're curious and want to do any of these and aren't tagged, definitely take the prompts and run with it. Let's see. Any guesses? Favorite child in literature. There we go. Yeah, I'll take another second to say, if you don't know, March is my drafting month this year. It just turned out that way. Since Nana was not a thing we're supporting anymore, I decided March would be a good month to try this. Questionable, but I'm I'm drafting away. I did my first word session this morning, and I will do another one in the afternoon or evening. It's going well so far, knock on wood. But yesterday was a day. It was the 8th of the month, and I was already starting to feel like, oh God. Drafting months are hard, folks. Just saying. Okay, so my favorite child, Matilda. Roald Dahl's Matilda. I don't know how you could say anyone else. She's super smart. She's in a terrible situation. She fights for the trodden on and comes out of in a better situation. So she's definitely my favorite. Prompt number 2 is Drone, your favorite male character in a book. And we're going to revisit Wooing the Witch Queen because Felix, chef's kiss. Chef's kiss. I wouldn't call him a cinnamon roll, not because he's like got sharp edges, but like I think his core is, well, I guess caretaking is sort of cinnamon rolly. But there's just some really good tender moments when they don't even know each other yet, and I was like super crushing on them. So yeah, Felix, Wooing the Witch Queen by Stephanie Burgess, totally. 3 is Hive, a house or home in literature that you find memorable. Aha. Okay, so let's see if I can search for this. Yes, I'm going to go to share this. Go back to this page. We're going to go back to red. All the red books. Let's see. And then we're going to filter for literary, because that's kind of where you get themes in books. This is all the work that I did, and I have to redo because I can't do overlays. StreamYard. So the last 5 literary reads all had interesting homes. The prompt is asking for memorable. And I think they're all memorable in different ways. So we have mutual interests. I had Olivia Wolfgang Smith on the channel a couple weeks ago, and it was lovely. This is a historical literary, and it's about a woman who makes a home for herself in a very unconventional marriage where there's 2 men in turn of the century New York City. And so they have this very intricate home arrangement with like secret passageways so that they can access each other's rooms and have it be on the down low. And it's just, it's funny. And the story was very good. It sort of grew past that, but the home was an interesting one. Let me make sure I'm sharing it. Yes. Okay. The next one would be All the Water in the World, which I already talked about. And the home concept in this book is the top of a building and like a sort of flimsy shelter. And then other people are the home. And then they're journeying to like a safe place where they can put down roots for a new home, which I found very relatable and poignant. So I loved that. We've got Yeonnam Dong's Smiley Laundromat. And we've got a contemporary, cozy slice of life fiction where the first character we meet is my favorite. He's an older man who doesn't want to give up his house and, you know, capitulate to the gentrifying quarter. So he's got this one single home and a bunch of like fancy new buildings. And it's a 2-story because he originally thought that his son would want to live in the same building. But no one lives in the upper story. And then we meet someone who's struggling to pay the rent because they keep upping the lease and making them re-sign. So this was definitely foreseeable. They meet, they help each other, and he offers the second story to the other character, which I thought was lovely. So community, mutual aid. Love this for this South Korea setting. Then we've got The Seed Keeper by Diana Wilson. This is a Native American tale, an indigenous tale about someone who was in foster care because their parents had both passed away young and did not have an easy time of it, but then found a way out, got married, and then sort of like hopped the fence, basically. She was in the mirror image of her own culture. She was in a farm. She was trying to save the farm. She was trying to understand her son's, um, technocrat approach to farming while still realizing like this is wrong and I need to return to my roots. So the home there is one she returns to because it's a cabin in the woods that never was demolished from her dad, versus the home that is like the farm. And I liked the play of those a lot. So really good. And then finally, Clear by Karis Davis is the fifth literary book that I just looked up, last one. And the home here, so the story is about a man who's the only surviving resident on an island, and a minister who has taken up the commission to travel to the island, which is a little bit dangerous back in the day, and tell him that he has to leave and then like take him away. So it's a clearance novel, hence the name. And the third character in this drama is the minister's wife, who eventually comes into the picture, I'll say, so that I don't spoil it. And the home that stood out to me is the one on the island, which is super simple, only got a couple of sentimental items, and everything has its place. And I feel kind of like it represents what you would have on a boat or what you would have if you were a blind person. Like everything has its place so that you can see, can depend on where things are, and if anything is slightly changed, you notice. And that's sort of the life that this man has on the island, living by himself, no one else to look after him if he falls and hurts himself. So, really good, really turns you on your back, I'll say. Tourne le dos. I don't know if that applies. I don't even remember what that means. I think it's like a steak in American. I don't know. Anyway, yeah. So a hive, lots of great home themed books. It's kind of my thing. I had a couple videos early on in my channel where I was talking about the theme of home, and especially as it concerns homelands and identifying with your heritage and like indigenous right to those stories and how we all mesh and make others invisible. So it's been something that's sort of skills in my thinking every so often. So I really like this prompt. Number 4, Orientation Flight, a memorable coming-of-age character. And I've already talked about All the Water in the World. I loved Noni's viewpoint as the young girl on the spectrum forced to grow up too soon in a dystopian world, and with this sixth sense about water in a world that is overrun with water and not good water, right? So I loved that. Prompt number 5 is Waggle Dance, a book you love so much it makes you want to dance. So what I immediately thought of was not actually dancing, but buying a copy. So I've been going gangbusters on the library checkouts. That's what all of these are behind me next to the lamp. But a couple of books recently I read through, and I had so many sticky notes that I was like, I need to get my own copy of this. And so I looked up, used inventory in Pals, and I was like, oh, they have one copy. It's mine. And so I ran down and got a used copy and then transferred all my sticky notes before I had to return it to the library. So it worked out perfectly. And those books would be Worn, A People's History of Clothing, which is like picking and choosing some different details from textile history in a way that highlights labor movements as well as solidarity between marginalized populations, which I really loved. And also like cool textile things that I never knew about. Like there's something called denim heads, and people that are really into actual denim because it's a certain type of weave that's like 2 by 1. So it creates a diagonal, not a nap, but a pattern of some sort. And they'll go for like the quality ones rather than the new ones that are not dyed right or, don't have selvage seams. And I was like, oh, so that store down on Burnside that's called Self Edge, it's a pun for denim heads that I never realized. And so it ushered me in to like understanding part of my environment, which is very cool. So Worn was really great. That's by Sophie Thanhauser, an American. And then the other book that I had to go get my own copy of is a cookbook called Salad Days. And that is written by Amy Penhour, who's a British writer. And it's a cookbook of plant-based. I think there's some like dairy and cheese and stuff, but vegetarian for sure. And there's just lots of like seasonality celebrated and simplicity and interesting combinations. And there were so many tabs because I was like, ooh, I haven't thought of that. Ooh, I haven't thought of that. I might actually like that. So lots of cool new ideas, which I love, and very colorful. So we always love colorful food. That's something above me walking around. Prompt number 5 bonus is do the dance, which I'm not going to do today. I am fighting a little bit of congestion. I went on allergy medication. I'm now off it because it did something weird to my ears. So yeah, we're back in the sneezing and stuffy phase and haven't figured it out. It's fine. It's fine. Prompt number 6, June Gap, your favorite summertime book. So when I think of summertime, I think of like nature and pollinators and stuff. And so I'm coming back to one of my favorite nature memoirs, which is Orchard, A Year in England's Eden by Benedict MacDonald and Nicholas Gates. And I think Nicholas Gates did like the photography and Ben MacDonald did most of the writing. But this book is about a small plot of land in I want to say Buckinghamshire, but in the middle of England, and how it's been let wild for several decades. And so it hasn't been developed, it's been sort of protected. And so a lot of species that used to cover England but are decimated by habitat loss have found this and sort of made it their home. And it's a little microcosm of what used to be naturally available before all the pesticide use and habitat loss. And so these two guys document a year with photos, with detailed notes, and understanding how one thing leads to another in this patch of land. And I really loved it. And it made me aware of things like blowflies and zombie insects. And I had a real good time when I was talking about this, teasing Beth Ann, who is a pollinator scientist, so a researcher. So yeah, Orchard, nature memoir, just like really cool stories and observations about nature, and it gave a very summertime vibe. Prompt number 7 is Honeycomb. Show your book storage, shelving and organization. So I don't do well, as I told Eva, with vlogs or like video, but I did do a video not too long ago that was showing my main shelves in my bedroom and like the cube system that I use. So if you're interested in some of my bookshelf tour, like a portion of it, it's here. It's from several months ago, and yeah, so you could sort of tune in as I sit on the floor and go through some books behind me if you're into that. And Katja's here. Hello, hello. So yeah, so I'm sort of shunting that to another link and then moving on to prompt number 8, Colony, your favorite family or found family in literature. And I mean, favorite is hard to judge, but I would definitely say when I think of found family, I think of the Others series by Anne Bishop. I have not yet read the other Anne Bishop that I have, the Dark Mirror, maybe. But she's written a lot of books, and this is the one that I connected most with. It's basically werewolves and vampires and elementals and sort of other creatures from the dark unknowns of the world and humans who are trying to encroach on their territory. So it's very like environmentalist and themed, and how the other creatures start to fight back and be like, no, humans, we're stronger than you. Sorry, like, you don't get that much territory. You're gonna be staying in these towns and you're gonna do what we tell you. And if you try to like strike back, like, you're gonna feel the consequences, which I love. Like, it's a little bit of vicarious pleasure in the justice that can be meted out. But in addition to all these creatures, there's also certain humans who are more adept at sort of other creature communications and like better allies, basically. And one type is called the Cassandra sanguine, which is Cassandra like prophet and sanguinate like bleeding. So when they cut themselves, they have this euphoric prophetic vision. And our main character is one of these types of people and escapes a place where she's being exploited and finds a bunch of friends in the werewolf and vampire world, and they all protect each other, and then they go through a bunch of shit. But I love the found family vibes, especially when they're like, "You smell funny," and just like the dogs, the werewolf wolf form, and I don't know, like the little everyday life things are super fun. So there's like a lot of like trauma and violence and whatever, but there's also like everyday humor, and I love that part. So Anne Bishop fan because of the others novels. Sorry, I'm getting more stuffy as I speak here. Almost done. Prompt number 9 is extraction. Tell about a book you have unhauled or DNF'd. Oof. Okay, so I'm not going to share a screen for this, but the first one when I looked up explanations for DNFing was Throne of Glass. So I thought I'd try another Sarah J. Maas that was earlier that people have raved about. When I look at TikTok, I see a lot of ACOTAR memes that I understand because I've read 4 of those books. But then I also see Throne of Glass, Aelin or whatever her name is, and I don't get those because I haven't read it. So I thought, okay, I'll give it a try. Like, it seems like it might be a sort of equivalent series. I started reading it and I DNF'd it 3%. I was like, no, I cannot do this. it was too young adult, so we noped right out of that. And I don't feel bad saying it because so many people love her books. Like, I'm not affecting her bottom line in any way, shape, or form. Number 10, Queen Bee, your favorite fictional female or a female historical figure from before 1900 AD. Very specific. I thought I would take this prompt to highlight a book that I read recently that I really enjoyed, but then ended on a cliffhanger. And when I looked at the Libro.fm cover, I was like, dang it, why didn't I see that? It said part 1. I should have known it was going to yank the rug out from underneath me. So that's The Haunting of Hecate Cavendish by Paula Braxton. This is my first time reading Paula Braxton. I think she had a book out a while ago. This is a newer one. Obviously, it's part 1, so it's part of a series, and I wouldn't recommend starting it until she does the next one because it ends without resolution. But Hecate Cavendish is a lovely character. She talks to ghosts, and she sort of comes into her own when she stands up for herself and her family and goes to work in a historical church library. So they have very, very old books and are in charge of keeping these safe. And it turns out some of them are pretty evil. So she does some research, she makes some allies, she tries to like save the day, and it was fun. But I wish it had, resolved the main conflict in the book. So I felt a little cheated, but I loved the character. I loved her like gumption. Really good gumption character. Prompt number 11 is bee bread, a food mentioned in a book that you would love to make or eat. Okay, so this is where I have to go to, and I'll bring it up so I can show you. The audiobook that I listened to. And that is The Restaurant of Lost Recipes. So it's a second in a series, but it's not necessary to read the first in order. It's the series is called The Kamigawa Food Detectives, and it's by Hisashi Kashiwai. Hanako Footman is the narrator, and Jesse Kirkwood is the translator. And basically, there's this little restaurant tucked away, and it's a father and daughter duo, and they research people's mystery memory meal memories. People come in for a food detective, and they sort of tell their sob story to this father and daughter. The father is the detective. No, the daughter is the detective. The father makes the food. So they say, I'm really trying to recreate this meal that I remember, and this is all I can tell you about it, and I haven't been able to find it again. And so they do some detective work, but it's really like connecting to the emotional core of the food. And then they come back and serve it, and it solves a problem in the person's life. So very sentimental. It's probably not Katya's bag, but I loved this. I do wish there had been more connections between the stories, but maybe further series will have that. And I did a quick search to see if anyone had tried making the dishes in this book, and unfortunately could not find it. But the first one I remember is the one that made the biggest impression, and it was an athlete from a school who was trying to recreate like seaweed over rice, like something super, super simple. And there was something about the seaweed, there was something about the rice, and like nothing has ever come close to it. So we learned that it was something his father made for his box lunches that he would love at school, and people made fun of him for like eating the same simple thing every day, but it was his father's way of saying he loved him, and it was special. So, oh, so good. Like, hit me in the feels. So, that sort of thing. That's kind of why I got this book, because I was so tempted to like make these different flavors, but it's artisan work. It's something that you spend years perfecting, and like I don't have that skill. So it's a nice book to look at. It's fine. Prompt 12 is Granulation. The book you have left unread the longest, just sitting somewhere. Oh, I have a book for this, and it came up in Nicole's latest book. So Celtophile Readathon, run by Nicole's Bookish Nook. I was like, hey, you know what would be a good place to find a buddy reader? This readathon. But so far, no one has volunteered. I want help. I need help, people. So this is The Year of the French, and it's written by Thomas Flanagan. He is not Irish. He is an American, but he did a tremendous amount of research like in the 70s. This is an older book to write this, and it's slipped into the series that I'm writing currently. So The Year of the French refers to the year that the Irish rebels thought that the French would come help them in their rebellion, which is 1798. And it failed spectacularly, and a lot of people were transported or hanged. And the rebellion continued to simmer, right? So I did start this a while ago, and I don't know, I got 20 pages in, 15 pages. And it is so bewildering. I have so little context. The language and vocabulary are so inaccessible. I need a buddy. So, especially if someone more grounded in Irish history, wink wink, perhaps would like to help me out on this. I would love a buddy reader for this. Doesn't have to be in March. Could be for the rest of the year. We could take it slow. But this would be my pick for the Granulation Prompt Faux Show. Yeah. So let me know. Let me know if you want to help me. 12 bonus prompt. Honeybees have 4 wings, 2 larger and 2 smaller. I did not know that. Tag 2 larger booktubers and 2 smaller booktubers. So, I mean, it's a bee tag. So obviously I have to tag Beth Ann, bee scientist, but I'm also going to tag Leslie at Books, Gers, and Purrs. And then book chat with Pat, because she wasn't tagged in this yet, or hasn't done it yet, I should say. And Hannah's books, because I think these are some fun prompts, and I haven't seen as much from Hannah lately, but she does put out videos, and they're very well researched. So yeah, so that's who I would ask if they wanted to do this tag. Whoo, an hour and a half, another long one, folks, but this is fun. I'm I'm catching up on my tags, and now I can cross these out in my notepad here. But that'll give you a taste of the books that I was reading last year, the highlights, the books that I have read for Herkyed a little bit, and current reads, and a few intended reads. So it's really like a pretty wide swath of my reading, in case you weren't aware what I read. But yeah, lots of exciting things. And that's it for us today. I'm going to retire the voice and get some more water. And hopefully, I don't know, maybe the seasonal change will stop the allergy attacks, but they seem to be here to stay over the past year. So what you gonna do? You're gonna read is what you're gonna do. You're gonna diversify that reading list and keep reading with us here on Booktube. It's a form of self-care, honestly. So I'm glad to see you here with me. Take care of yourself, everybody, and thank you for watching. And yeah, happy weekend. Take care of yourselves and good luck, everybody.